Look, if you're working a professional job right now, you are literally missing millions of dollars. And no, it's not because you didn't grind hard enough or, pick the wrong major in college. It's because the economic machine we're all trapped inside, it was secretly rewired decades ago.
$3.9 million. Think about that for a second. That is the exact amount of nominal wealth being quietly siphoned out of a typical 30-year career. It's the cold, hard math separating the actual value you generate from the tiny fraction that actually lands in your bank account.
So, where exactly is all your money going? Well, in this explainer, we're tracking down every single cent. We're going to expose the invisible trap that caught us all. And in just a few minutes, you'll see exactly how artificial intelligence is about to put this wealth transfer on absolute steroids. But hey, to understand the trap, we got to look at exactly when it was set.
Part 1. The 1979 Productivity Split and the Missing Wealth.
Okay, so before 1980, the American workforce had this golden rule, right? You work harder, you generate more value, and your pay goes up in lockstep. Sounds fair. But if we look at the data from the Brookings Institution, right around 1979, that link just snaps. Over the next 40 years, economy-wide productivity absolutely skyrocketed by roughly 60%, but your paycheck, it barely limped up 16%. That massive, gaping space between those two numbers, yep, that's your $3.9 million.
So how did this massive heist actually happen? Well, two major things hit at exactly the same time. First, you have the Federal Reserve hiking interest rates during the Volcker era, specifically to cap wage growth. And second, Wall Street embraced a brand new religion, shareholder primacy. Suddenly, profits were no longer being shared with the actual people doing the work. Instead, companies started using your surplus value to buy back their own stock. This funneled trillions straight into the pockets of the investor class.
Which brings us to Part 2, the rise of superstar firms.
Now, you might be thinking, hey, I'll just go get a job at some elite tech giant and completely beat the system. But guys, that's a mathematical illusion. Landmark research from MIT and Harvard actually tracks the rise of these so-called superstar firms. We're talking about massive monopolies that completely dominate the modern economy. Sure, they print cash like crazy, but here is the brutal twist. They pass a historically tiny fraction of that wealth down to the actual professionals working there.
Economists call this monopsony power, but honestly, let's just call it what it really is. It's a trap. See, when an entire industry consolidates down to just 2 or 3 giants, your exit options basically vanish. Imagine you're an elite software engineer, but only 3 companies in your city are actually buying your specific skills. They don't have to start a bidding war for you. They can artificially suppress your salary simply because they know you have nowhere else to go.
Part 3, the capital over labor rule.
This total loss of bargaining power perfectly illustrates a really uncomfortable mathematical reality famously laid out by the economist Thomas Piketty. His formula is simple. R is greater than G. Basically, the rate of return on capital, so things like dividends, profits, and rents, will just always outpace general economic growth and the growth of your wages. It mathematically guarantees that owning things accumulates wealth exponentially faster than doing actual work. Your daily effort, that's linear, but their ownership, that is exponential.
And to make matters worse, the tax code is structurally rigged to protect this setup. Just look at the insane asymmetry here. When you sell your time for wages, the government treats your effort as a heavily taxed line item, sometimes taking up to 37%. But if you just sit back and let your capital grow, you're shielded by a 20% tax cap. The system literally penalizes your hard work while building this huge tax-advantaged fortress around ownership. All of this creates a machine of pure financialization that attacks your wage share from every possible angle. First, global capital can just easily flee abroad for cheaper labor, leaving you completely powerless. Second, intense capital market competition forces executives to ruthlessly cut your pay just to pump up their share prices. And then, you throw in the crushing weight of rising household debt. Suddenly, professionals are way too financially vulnerable to ever risk putting their foot down and demanding better pay.
Which leads us directly into Part 4. The AI wealth multiplier.
Okay, so we've established that wages decoupled from productivity decades ago, monopolies crushed your bargaining power, and capital mathematically dominates labor. Now, imagine injecting the most powerful technology in human history directly into the center of that very machine. Take a look at this absolutely stunning admission from Palantir CEO Alex Karp. He flat out says AI could make the people involved 10 to 100 times wealthier. He literally calls it a complete decoupling of unimaginable wealth and normal wealth. Guys, AI isn't just a fun new tool. It is the ultimate accelerator for this ongoing wealth heist. Macroeconomist Dr. Ben Keene calls this dynamic the K-shaped economy. And if you really think about it, it makes total sense. If AI allows you to suddenly do the work of 3 people, your employer is definitely not going to triple your salary. No way. They just keep you, they capture all of that massive surplus productivity, and then they pass those new profits straight up to the shareholders. So the upper arm of that K shoots right to the moon for the owners, while the lower arm points straight down for the wage earners. It's permanently fracturing the professional class.
Which leaves us staring down a pretty brutal reality. The math is fixed, the corporate structures are deeply entrenched, and this incredible AI multiplier, it's already online. The question is no longer whether wealth is concentrating at the top. That's a given. The only real question left for us is this. If the system isn't reformed to break this machine, what exactly is your personal strategy to make sure you end up on the top half of that K?